In the Ottawa real estate market in 2026, there are some clear winners and some clear losers. And when I say winners and losers, I don't mean the winners timed the market perfectly or that the losers made a horrible decision. I just mean that based on where the market cycle is right now, some people are in a really good spot and some people are dealing with being dealt a fairly tough hand. I'm going to break down both sides in this video, and for each one, I'm going to tie it to the actual data that we're seeing so far in Ottawa in 2026. This isn't just my opinion, but what the numbers are showing us. Now, we're going to start with the losers because that's probably why you clicked on the video, and loser number one in this market is pre-construction buyers who have a closing coming up in 2026. These are likely people who bought in 2021 at peak prices and peak optimism at an interest rate that was probably below 2% if they bought at the best possible time. Closing into a market where their unit is likely 15 to 20% below what they paid for it, and the interest rates are going to be higher. There's also possibly an appraisal gap. The bank may not lend the full amount, so the buyer may have to cover the shortfall if they bought long enough ago when prices were that much higher. Mortgage rates are now in the mid threes to low fours. I just applied for a 5-year fixed mortgage myself, and the rate that I got from the broker was right around 4%. So this is going to make the payment much higher than these people anticipated than when they first bought that property at an inflated price. The reality for these people is they're going to have to hold this property for a long time in order to break even. This isn't going to be a 2 or 3 year recovery. You're going to have to hold this place for at least 5, probably longer, to get back to a place where you're going to be able to make money selling this thing. The other issue is if your plan was to rent this place, it's very likely that you will be in a negative cash flow position unless you put an absolutely massive down payment down. So you could be looking at anywhere between 400 to 600 to more negative cash flow per month on a property like this. Loser number two, and this will come as no surprise to those that have been watching the market this year or last year, is condo sellers. The sales to new listing ratio is around 35%, so about 35% of the new listings that are coming to market are actually selling in a given month. And that's for condos. We're seeing 47% in detached and 52% sales to new listing ratio in freehold townhouse territory. We're also seeing a very high median days on market, 51 days, which is up from the last couple of years and continues to climb in the condo section of the market. Now, one thing that's a caveat that I feel like I should mention here is the condos, the tower condos are the ones that are probably doing the worst right now. If you're living in a 3-bedroom townhouse type condo that will work for a lot of lifestyles, that would potentially work for a young family, or a retiree looking to downsize into something with a little less maintenance that's a little more manageable, that's something that seems to be moving a little bit better. At the very least, you're going to get showings, whereas a condo tower unit now, unless the unit is spectacular or priced at an absolute bargain, it's very unlikely you're getting a lot of traffic through your listing. Another thing that's worth looking at is the sold units versus the amount that have terminated, basically the number of units that have just given up and come off the market. Now, I'm always cautious when I look at this stat because the terminations do take into consideration any properties that terminate their listing and then relist immediately at a higher price. So that termination number is inflated, but it's still worth paying attention to. And if we were to take that number as real, it would be almost a 1-to-1 ratio. In reality, it's going to be less than that, but the fact remains we're seeing a lot more terminations. And even if they're coming back to market, the fact that they're terminating and then relisting means that they're not getting traction and the market is moving down compared to where they thought they would have to be in order to sell. Loser number three is anybody who had a 5-year fixed mortgage that they got in 2020, 2021 when the rates were super low. Those mortgages are likely coming up for renewal this year. There's a ton coming up for renewal in 2026. And we can see that the mortgage rate they're going to be paying has gone up. So I actually didn't update this one. It says 3.79. I would say 4% is more likely what you're going to be looking at now. And you've been paying that nice cushy 2% or sub 2% mortgage for the last 5 years. That monthly payment is about to jump significantly. Most people I talk to now seem to be aware that that jump is coming. But if you're not, definitely get prepared for a rude awakening and an increased monthly payment if you are one of those people who bought at the low mortgage rates. Now, despite everything I just said, there are some people who are in a genuinely good position in this market, and we're going to take a look at those scenarios now. Winner number one is anybody who is buying a first-time home. Now, I'm going to look here at the townhouse numbers specifically because this is often where first-time buyers are going to land, but this applies to the condo market too, given the data that we just looked at in the losers section. Anyone who's looking to sell a condo is having a rough time, and by contrast, anyone who's in the market to buy a condo is in a relatively good position because they have a ton of negotiating power. But as far as what's going on with the townhouse market, where first-time buyers tend to want to live, we've got a median sale price of $605 in Ottawa, which is much lower than it was a few years ago. We've got a sales to new listing ratio of 52%. So there's product coming on the market and these properties are selling. There's a little bit of competition in some areas, but it's definitely nowhere near how crazy the market was a few years ago. It's relatively buyer friendly. And if you're savvy and patient, you can find a really, really nice townhouse in this market. The median days on market is 22 days, so you've got some time to look around, but there's properties that are good enough that are coming up that they're actually selling. Winner number two is anybody who has a 3-year fixed mortgage renewal. So if you locked in 2023, 3 years ago, chances are you were right near the top of where the rates were at 5.5%. If that 3-year mortgage is coming up for renewal, you're renewing into a much more friendly market, probably around 4%. On a $400,000 mortgage, that is about $400 per month in savings, and that's really awesome. Like, that's going to make a big difference in your monthly budget. These people are probably going to be glad that they didn't take the 5-year mortgage because those people have to wait a couple of more years before renewing and they're stuck at that higher rate. And winner number three is just buyers in general. And that's mostly because of both the correction in prices over the last few years, plus the decrease in the rates from a couple of years ago. So in 2023 and 2024, the prices had definitely corrected from those peaks in 2022, but you were paying a much higher mortgage rate. And those higher mortgage rates were largely the reason for the properties dropping in value. In 2026, you've got kind of the best of both worlds. You've got mortgage rates that are better, although the fixed rates have gone up a little bit in the last couple of months because of current events that are beyond our control. But the prices have stayed down and the mortgage rates are still much better than they were a couple of years ago. So when you're looking at the monthly cost, which other than the down payment is the main thing that holds people back from jumping in and making a move, we're in a relatively good environment for that. In my opinion, the biggest risk now that you're taking as a buyer is if you have to sell in the next couple of years unexpectedly, because prices are dropping right now and that's making it a very favorable environment for buyers to negotiate in. But if you suddenly have to drop and sell in 2 years, that's going to put you in a position where you may still be riding that train down before it starts to recover. But if you're planning to stay in the property for at least 5 years, and especially if you're planning to stay there for longer than that, there's a very good chance that between the amount that you're going to pay down in your mortgage and the fact that the market will have probably flipped and started climbing by then, you will be in a much, much better position. And this could be a really nice time to buy as a first-time buyer. I hope this was helpful, but let me know what you think in the comments. If this is something that makes sense to you, do you think that the market's going to flip and get better? Or do you think we are going to ride these prices down for another couple of years before that happens? As always, appreciate you taking the time to watch. Have a wonderful rest of your day and take care.